Welcome everyone to this quarter's Compassion Collective Connection event. As a reminder, these are events both for and by the Compassion Collective that will focus on the work you help us do for farmed animals and why it's so critical. The first couple of these that we've done were more in the category of being for the Compassion Collective, while today is one that is more by the Compassion Collective. I first met Maddie Johnson and learned about her amazing rescue around the time of our 2002 gala, which she attended and where she also ended up making a generous donation to the transformation program and joining the Compassion Collective. We are excited to have you all join us here to learn from one of our members about the incredible work she's doing, the lives she's touching, and the inspiring message about animals she's passing along to hundreds of thousands of people. Let's start with a short video about one of the many amazing things Maddie has done and meet Pickles the pig.
Hi, my name is Maddie, and this is the story of how I got a pig butcher to quit his butchering business. I rescued my little pig, Pickles, when he was just a baby off of a flooded farm. He had, unbeknownst to me, ingested rat poison, so he was bleeding out internally, and when I rushed him to the vet, they told me he had 6 hours left to live. So I suggested doing a blood transfusion, and they told me that if I could find a pig within 6 hours, they would be willing to do it. I went on Craigslist and I found a butcher who was selling his 450-pound pig. And so I called him on the phone and begged him to just let me borrow her for this blood transfusion. And he ended up letting me do that. So I started searching online for trailer haulers, horse transporters, that sort of thing. And I called a man. He answered and he was fully packed up in his car with his wife in the front seat and 2 kids in the back seat. So the whole family drove and they got this big pig, rushed her to UC Davis, and the blood transfusion was a success. And I will never forget sitting in the stall with her, and I immediately knew that I had to save her. It wasn't fair. So I bought myself a now 1,000-pound pig, and eventually we found her a forever home at a sanctuary in Sonoma. This is such a sweet story. I was like, I think I want to write a children's book. When it came time for this book to be published, I decided I would reach back out to the butcher, and he answers and he was like, Maddie, I was so touched by how much you cared about your little pig and my big pig that I have since quit my butchering business, and I retired all of my animals to live on my farm as family, and I started a dog rescue in your honor. It was so sweet, and it just showed me that if you just lead with kindness and compassion, you never know who you might touch.
Such a wonderful video. I have now seen that like over 10 times and it still gets me every single time. I think it's one of my favorite collaborations MFA has ever done on a video project. So Maddie Johnson is an Emmy-winning producer and animal rescuer. She runs the mission-driven Instagram account @livingwithpickles that gets roughly 3 million impressions per week. And she has shared her story with Good Morning America, The Today Show, The Dodo, Animal Planet, People, and Business Insider, amongst others. Through the support of her community online, she has raised over $200,000 for various nonprofits. Living with Pickles content is creative, wholesome, playful, and charming. Along the way, Maddie has helped rescue and rehabilitate over 200 animals. Maddie is a hero of mine, and I suspect that after this event, she might be yours too. So with that, let's please welcome Maddie Johnson.
Hi guys, thank you all for joining and spending your day with us. I'm so in love with everything that Mercy for Animals does, and so I'm just really happy to be here. So one of the most commonly asked questions I get is, how the heck did I get started doing all of this? I have always had a passion for animals, even at an early age. When my mom remarried my stepdad when I was 6, the rule was he didn't want to have more kids, but he said, you can have as many animals as you guys want. So we took full advantage of that, and we had everything imaginable growing up. So I always loved animals, and I went to USC to study film and international relations because my other passion was storytelling. And so I ended up doing work abroad with the World Wildlife Fund in Nepal, and the Ministry of Agriculture in Bhutan on rhino conservation and tiger conservation, and led a project with Stanford to design environmental drones that would scramble the radio collar signal rangers were putting on the tigers, because actually poachers were able to hack into the signal, locate and poach the tigers that way. So among other things, we were designing these environmental drones. So I got to nurture my passion for animals that way. And then when I graduated, I worked at Khan Academy and was creating educational videos at scale. And then I worked at Global Citizen, which is a mission-driven concert that raises money for the UN and their sustainable development goals. So I was always very driven by my love of animals and storytelling, and then trying to create impact at scale using technology, which all sort of parlays actually nicely into what I do now. But, you know, when I got back from putting on this 120,000 person music festival in India, I was very young at the time. I think I was like 22 or 23, and I just didn't know what I wanted to do next with my life. And I didn't really have a plan. And then Pickles sort of just fell into my lap. He was the first animal I ever rescued, and got him off of a flooded farm. And he had, yeah, as you saw, ingested rat poison. And so sort of just as a coping mechanism for myself, I started sharing his progress and updates, health updates, as well as darling videos from when he was healthy, on social media, just to keep myself occupied while he was in the hospital. And I was so surprised by how many people from all around the world started to fall in love with my little piglet. And before I had gotten Pickles, I admittedly was not vegan. I stopped eating pork after I got Pickles because I realized how intelligent he was. But it wasn't until we rescued this 500-pound pig, to give him the blood transfusion, that I had that aha moment. And I just remember she had this successful, you know, blood transfusion, and she was sitting in the stall, and she was just so calm, and she was eating out of the palm of my hand. And I was like, oh my gosh, we can't not save her. Like, she just saved him. That's not fair. And why would we, you know, love one animal but eat the other? And so that was my aha moment. And I think people saw me go through that in real time and kind of connected with that, and were like, wow, yeah, maybe I should shift my thinking too. And I just remember seeing how this one animal's life was able to connect so many human lives too. Like, the only reason the butcher gave me that pig was because he had lost his dog to rat poison, and his dog was his best friend. And, you know, he of course had more empathy for a dog than he would for a pig. That opinion would later change, but he ended up letting me borrow, you know, the pig. And then when I asked if it would fit in my Lexus SUV and he said, hell no, I knew that I needed to get a transporter. And, you know, when I called that family, this wasn't in the video, but he was actually fully packed up in his car with his wife in the front seat and his two little kids in the back seat, all ready to go on a family vacation to Disneyland. And I told him this story. I probably sounded insane. Like, can you just go get this giant pig and rush her to UC Davis? I have to save my tiny pig. But I heard the little kids in the back seat be like, Daddy, we have to save Pickles. And so, you know, it was the little kids that got them to be like, all right, you know, let's do this. Let's do something good for the day. Um, and so, you know, I started to realize, like, when you're kind and you're compassionate and you lead with that, it's amazing the people that will rally behind you. And sure enough, hundreds of people helped me find a home for Tickles, the giant pig, who's, by the way, now 1,000 pounds and the largest pig UC Davis has ever seen, because as you probably know, pigs are usually slaughtered when they're 6 months old. They're still babies, and they take 4 to 5 years to reach full size. So it's very rare that they've even seen a pig be allowed to reach this size. And so I realized, okay, is there a way to turn this into a children's book? Just because it's such a sweet and wholesome story about reciprocity and helping out, a friend in need. So at the time, I actually, I I had started researching the top children's book publishers and started kind of following them on Instagram or liking one of their posts from Pickles' account. And I was like, okay, just give them a couple months. They're going to fall in love with Pickles. And then I'll announce that I want to write a children's book. And so I did. And, you know, I within about an hour, I had an email in my inbox from the senior editor at Simon and Schuster's children's imprint, being like, I love Pickles. He's adorable, and I've totally fallen in love with him. Let's try to do this. So I was like, that worked. And so, when it came time to publish this children's book, and I found out we were going to go on Good Morning America and do this press tour, I thought to myself, okay, let me reach back out to the butcher. And he answered, and he was like, Maddie, I've been looking for your number for a year now. I was so touched. I quit my butchering business that day, and I started a dog rescue in your honor. And so that really motivated me that, hey, if I could convince a butcher to quit his butchering business, just think of what I could do to influence other people online. And so that interaction really sparked a fire within me. And I went on to start rescuing, rehabilitating, and finding homes for other orphaned animals. And so, I started very small and continued to challenge myself as I reached certain milestones. I learned everything on my own, and thanks to social media, I was building a great network of people to offer advice and guidance. And I found an amazing mentor who taught me lots of tricks of the trade and much of what I know now. And I started taking in animals that had a very small chance at surviving, and I watched them thrive, and I started to document all of it on social media. And I had a Frenchie that I adopted around the same time that I got Pickles. And so I was posting photos of them together, cuddling and wearing matching clothes, and it allowed people to see a pig and a dog side by side, being best friends, playing together, cuddling together. And I think it helped people realize that all of these animals are so equally deserving of love. And so I would do little things like take Pickles to an entry-level dog agility class where none of these dogs had ever done agility before. And I thought to myself, I think Pickles could outsmart all of these dogs. And sure enough, he picked things up very quickly, and he was the top hog of his agility class, as the woman said. Of course, he's very motivated by food and snacks, so that was the incentive there for him. But I sort of just started like living my life with the animals and sharing my experiences with them online. And I'm not telling people how to feel, I'm just telling stories. And by virtue of sharing these stories and people getting to know these animals' personalities, people are making those choices for themselves to be kinder or to reevaluate what they eat. Because probably for the first time in their life, they're formed an emotional connection to a factory farmed animal. They know that Pickles tucks himself into bed at 7:30 p.m. every night like a grandpa. They know he loves his mom, and he loves to cuddle, and he gives kisses on command. And if you say Pickles 360, he'll spin in a circle. And that's all thanks to social media. And I think that we need all forms of activism online. And I think sometimes it takes those really graphic images for people to have that aha moment. But I know for me, I have such a unique life now, right? Like I have a llama that comes inside, and I've got piglets, and I had a puppy that formed an intense bond to a duckling. I feel like it is my civic duty to share that adorableness online and just help people by virtue of seeing all these animals love and be loved, make the connection. Um, and I, it's a lot of hard work. Taking in animals that came from awful abuse cases or have special needs, and that share a home with lots of other species. But I always try to take those moments, even though rescue is very hard, to take a step back and just realize like how special my life is. Like I will stand there in the backyard and watch my llama frolic, um, and play fetch with my Frenchies, or like have, I had a litter of puppies and piglets that were all in the yard playing together. Um, and yeah, sometimes it feels like a fairy tale. And I feel also like the 6-year-old in me won at life, where I'm like, Mom, can I have a llama and can he come inside and hang out in the living room sometimes? And she's like, of course not. And now I'm an adult and I can do those things. And yeah, so I kind of feel like the 6-year-old in me won in life. And so, I think the other thing that makes the account successful and approachable is that, I'm not this well-established like sanctuary that's sharing, or that with lots of volunteers and staff. Like it's just me, and I'm doing the most I can and making most of the space that I have. And it's a normal home with a big backyard and good systems that have put in place over time. But I think that's the other thing that people really enjoy uh, seeing online. And, helping animals will always be my #1 priority, but getting to change the hearts and minds of people through kindness and through telling their stories is just a huge bonus to me. And so I think that social media is actually to thank for why I've been able to do this for as many years as I have been, because I think I would feel discouraged if I was doing this in a silo, because rescue is never ending and you want to save them all, but you can't. So I'll go to an auction and I'll see 100 calves and I know that I can only save one. But social media allows for it to become way more than that one animal's life. So for example, I rescued this little calf named Eric from an auction, and I took him home, and he was in the laundry room. And I was made an appointment at UC Davis, and I was sharing all these videos online, and I shared this one video of, and this is the only time it's ever happened to me, you guys, but I was in the car and I was on the freeway and I got a flat tire with a cow in my car. And so I had to pull over and call AAA. And they were like, "Ma'am, do you have a spare tire?" And I'm like filming all of this and I'm like, "Yeah, I do, but it's under my cow." I don't know how to get to it. And so here I am, like stranded on the side of the road. Never had a flat tire in my life, only when I have a cow in the car. I've also never had a cow in my car. So it's just a lot of firsts at once. And then AAA like said that they wouldn't drop Eric off for me. I don't know why, but I guess it's not in their policy. So thanks again to social media, I was like, "Hey guys, can you help me? Um, can somebody give Eric a lift? Like, I'm on the side of the road." And within, I kid you not, like 20 minutes, there was the sweetest elderly lady who came over, and she had a tarp in her back seat, and she came and we lifted Eric into her car and she drove him to UC Davis. Um, and so, I mean, that was so sweet of her to do. And but B, um, that's like a video that has virality to it that will go online and be seen by many, many, many thousands of people. Like who first of all, who has a cow in their car? Cows, cars now on the side of the road, AAA is coming, tires under the cow. But but then what happens later is like once you get people and eyeballs on your account, then you talk about why that cow is sick in the first place. And that's because he was taken away from his mom and not given colostrum so that humans can then drink the milk that he was supposed to drink. And so I've always sort of told myself, you know, you are going I promise myself that you're gonna cast a wide net. So post the puppy content, because you don't want to go too hard on the vegan propaganda so that like you can reach the people that haven't thought about this before. And so I think I like to let the animals speak for themselves, and people fell in love with Eric, and sadly Eric actually didn't make it. We did everything we possibly could. So think about it. Like if I was just doing this alone and I wasn't sharing it, I feel like I would feel so down and disheartened because it would just feel like I'm trying to do something that's impossible. And I have the awareness to know I can't single-handedly change the system, but I can single-heartedly change the minds of thousands of people. And I have. And knowing that fuels me, and it makes my animal-loving heart very freaking happy. So I think like the content sort of writes itself, and I just, I love my animals. So like, yeah, I'll take my llama to yoga in the park, and I take Pickles to a brewery, and like it just helps normalize these farmed animals to people, and helps them realize like they're just so smart and so loving, loyal, equally deserving of our hearts than a dog or cat or traditional pet. And I think the challenge that I've had with social media and the risk that you run sharing your life online is that the more you do, the more people expect you to do. And so the bigger you grow, the more people are going to ask for help. And so the more you have to say no. And now I have to say no more than I get to say yes. And so if you're okay with that, then, you can handle this type of work. And you just need to be able to set clear boundaries for yourself for what you can and can't do. I did 1 year, 100 rescues, rehabilitations, and adoptions in a year. That's a lot. And it's just me, remember, like I don't have volunteers, I don't have a team. There's no facility. It's just my home that I've opened up to the animals. So some days like it just feels like I'm not doing enough, but I think once I share all their stories online and I know that it can touch so many people, it makes those negative feelings go away for me. And then the other sort of promise that I made to myself is that no matter how much horrific stuff I see with my own eyes from neglect cases and auctions, I will never, ever allow that to affect my spirit, and I will never become cynical or angry or judgmental of others. I will always lead with love and joy. Joy is infectious. Kindness is infectious. Humor is infectious. And that is how I want to influence people. I don't want to shame people for eating animals. I want to inspire them. I want them to feel safe sharing their progress with me. And I don't want anyone to think that this is an all or nothing game. And I think I'll continue to check myself when I lose an animal's life that was lost due to human neglect or selfishness or cruelty, and just make sure that I'm not becoming jaded or hard. And so maybe that means like I have to cut back on how much animal rights content I'm consuming online, or maybe I just have to stop going to auctions for a while. But I never want to fly so close to the sun that I let it burn my spirit. I always just want to be like a beacon of light and positivity. And like my page to feel that wholesomeness. Doodle, it's okay. I'm just giving a talk right now, but I love you. That is my firstborn child who you might hear in the background. Yeah, I think in fact, maybe Doodle, should we make introductions to the family? Maybe we'll do that now. Yeah, sure. Okay, awesome. So obviously my house is a constant rotation of foster animals. But we always have what I call our family. These are my babies, the permanent residents. So the one that was just crying, that is Doodle. She is the literal golden child of the family. She is 15 years young, loyal, gentle, awesome and anxious. She is motivated by words of affirmation. Now we have Peter. Peter is a blind kune kune pig. I rescued him. Actually, was very smart. There was a follower who she saw that I was hosting an adoption event for some puppies, and she came at the very tail end with Peter as a little piglet. He was in a shelter a day away from his euthanasia date, so she rescued him, brought him to this event, and was like, "Can you just babysit him for the weekend?" Very easy ask. And so I was like, sure, there's no harm in that. I'll watch him for a weekend. And she's like, by the way, he needs a home. So I was like, oh God, okay. And then of course I fell in love with him, and he became best friends with my other French bulldog. And so, Peter, he's blind and he has some neurologic issues. So he's not the brightest bulb in the bunch, but he sure is sweet. He is an uncle to all the baby animals. He's a low maintenance guy who's just happy to be a part of it all. Gentle as they come. He is motivated by potential friendships. Next on the list, we have Piper. Piper is our in-house gargoyle with a massive underbite. She was rescued as a puppy. She had some health issues, so she is occasionally guilty of pooping in the house. She has no shame. She is motivated by defying traditional standards of beauty. She's also motivated by floor crumbs. Dill. Dill is the comic relief of the family, very high energy, bumbling idiot, peacekeeper. He is so good with all my baby animals. I can put that dog in front of like ducklings, baby chickens. He's just so good. He's so gentle and kind. So he is motivated by his Lord and Savior, Ball. He's a big ball guy. Ball is life. And then of course, next we have Pickles. Pickles is the OG talent of the family. He's a retired surfer. He paints, he does dog agility. He knows his stuffed animals by name. Wow, he has a long resume. He plays piano. He's a virtuoso. Pickles does it all. He knows way more tricks than all the dogs combined. He is a professional camera hog, and he is motivated by the limelight, but also snacks. And then last but not least, we have Arnold. Arnold came to us as an orphan. I actually went all the way to Missouri to get him because I was spotlighting undercover a exotic animal auction where a lot of these hunting reserves in Texas will buy these gorgeous, beautiful animals from Africa, and then people will hunt them and just take a picture with them as they do. It's horrible. But Arnold was actually in one of the pens as an orphan. It turns out his mom had died shortly after childbirth, and so he'd been brought there, and they didn't actually think he was going to live because it's quite hard actually to get camelids on the bottle compared to other animals like puppies, calves. So I tried in the auction, but I was not successful, and they all had told me they had tried as well. So as you could imagine, auctions are very stressful places for animals. And so I sort of thought, okay, well, maybe if I just can break into this auction at nighttime when it's nice and quiet, maybe then I'll have a better shot at getting him on the bottle. So sure enough, I did do that, and he, yeah, it was successful. And so I brought him home. He came with us, and I actually, believe it or not, found him a mama llama who took him in, who had a baby about his age. So he got to grow up with that buddy as well. And Arnold's great. He's so protective of all the animals. He's our guardian that looks after everybody. He loves coming inside the house. He will wait at the porch to be let in. He enjoys leisurely walks around our neighborhood, being an oversized Muppet, going to what I call llama camp, which is a llama farm that I board him on so that he can also spend time with other llamas. He's only here a small percentage of the time, actually. He enjoys giving kisses and impressing people with his gentle and inquisitive nature, and he is motivated by Trader Joe's pea crisps. So yeah, so that pretty much wraps up the family and kind of my story about how I got started doing this in my journey on social media. But I know that we want to be able to also open the floor up to your questions, and I'm happy to answer whatever you guys want to know. And again, just thank you so much for allowing me to share my story with you guys.
Thank you so much, Maddie. Again, I'm familiar with your story and it still just makes me smile. And I'm just so inspiring. So really appreciate you being here today, sharing your story, introducing us to Pickles and Arnold and the whole family. I have my copy here of your book. I will talk a little bit about that in the Q&A. And I think I speak for everyone on the call today when I just say thank you for everything you've done for animals and spreading your message of compassion. You know, you embody what the Compassion Collective stands for, and we're just so proud to have you be a part of it. I know I'll continue to follow your incredible work through Instagram and other social media, and I can't wait to visit again the next time I'm in town. So before we go to the Q&A, I just want to talk a little bit more about the Compassion Collective. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, the Compassion Collective is a group of supporters within Mercy for Animals. It's a group of dedicated activists who helps raise a significant portion of our annual budget, including funding $175,000 match for Giving Tuesday last year. They're really at the core of who we are and why we can do this important work. So I'll send out a little bit more information in my follow-up email, and we'll also drop a link in the chat here so you can learn more if you'd like. Now, we always want to hear from you and what you've thought of this event. In the chat, we'll also put a link to our survey. So you can tell us what you think, ideas for future webinars. We changed the time for this webinar, and we'd love to hear if this was better for you or not, so we can kind of continue to have these events be as impactful as possible. Again, I am so grateful that you all took time to join us today. As always, none of this work happens without you, and we truly appreciate your continued support. Each and every one of you is making the world a brighter place for farmed animals. Your hard work and support are bringing us closer to a truly compassionate food system. Thank you for your dedication and support of Mercy for Animals. We are so grateful.